Some secrets are meant to protect us, others are meant to destroy us. And then there are the secrets that do both at the same time, the ones that keep you safe while slowly tearing you apart from the inside. I thought I knew everything about Marcus Chen. We'd been inseparable since freshman year of college, two lost souls who found each other in a crowded lecture hall, bonding over our shared love of terrible coffee and even worse poetry. He was the person I called at 3 a.m. when I couldn't sleep, the one who knew my coffee order by heart, the friend who felt more like home than any place I'd ever lived. But Marcus was hiding something. Something that made his hands tremble when we got too close. Something that put shadows in his eyes every time I talked about the guys I was dating. Something that made him pull away just when I needed him most. "Promise me you'll never tell anyone," he whispered one rain-soaked October night, his fingers gripping my wrist with desperate intensity. "Promise me, Ethan, this stays between us." I promised. God help me, I promised. I kept his secret for 3 years. 3 years of watching him struggle, of holding him while he cried, of pretending I didn't see the way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't paying attention. 3 years of building walls around my own heart because I thought I was protecting him. I never knew that his secret was about us. About the love he'd been hiding since the day we met. About the feelings I'd been burying so deep I'd almost convinced myself they didn't exist. This is the story of how a secret nearly destroyed the most important relationship of my life, and how the truth saved us both. The first time I saw Marcus Chen, he was arguing with a vending machine. "Come on, you mechanical piece of..." He slammed his palm against the glass, his dark hair falling into his eyes as he glared at the trapped bag of chips. "I paid you, give me my sustenance." I couldn't help but laugh. He spun around, catching me watching him, and his frustrated expression melted into something sheepish and charming. "Go ahead, mock my pain," he said, but he was smiling. God, that smile. It lit up his whole face, crinkling the corners of his eyes and revealing a slightly crooked front tooth that somehow made him even more attractive. "Here." I stepped forward, hitting the machine with the heel of my hand in exactly the right spot. The chips tumbled down with a satisfying thunk. "You've got to show it who's boss, my hero." He retrieved his prize, then held out the bag. "Want to share? It's the least I can do for my vending machine savior." That's how it started. Sharing a bag of salt and vinegar chips on the steps outside Whitman Hall while we waited for our introduction to modern literature class. By the time Professor Harrison called us in, I'd learned that Marcus was a transfer student from Seattle, that he wrote poetry in his spare time, and that he had this way of listening, really listening, that made you feel like you were the only person in the world. We became friends fast. The kind of friendship that feels inevitable, like it was written in the stars long before we met. We studied together in the library until they kicked us out at midnight. We discovered a tiny Vietnamese restaurant off campus where the owner, Mrs. Nguyen, adopted us like wayward sons and fed us banh mi whenever we looked too thin. We stayed up until dawn talking about books and music, and all the dreams we were afraid to speak out loud. Marcus understood me in a way no one else ever had. Growing up gay in a small Midwestern town had left me guarded, always keeping part of myself locked away. But with Marcus, I could breathe. I could be fully unapologetically myself, and I thought he felt the same way. I thought we were both out, both comfortable, both navigating our queerness together in this new college environment. I was wrong. It was November when I noticed something was off. We were at Java Junction, our favorite cafe, working on essays that were due the next morning. I just finished telling Marcus about Ryan, this guy from my economics class who'd asked me out. "He's cute," I said, grinning at the memory. "Really cute, and he actually reads books, Marcus. Real books, not just the required ones." I might actually say yes. Marcus had gone very still, his fingers frozen over his keyboard. When I looked up, his face was carefully blank, too blank, like he was working hard to keep something hidden. "That's great," he said, but his voice sounded hollow. "You should definitely go for it." "You okay?" "Yeah, just tired." He closed his laptop abruptly, not meeting my eyes. "I should probably head back to my dorm, get some sleep." He left before I could say anything else, his coffee still half full on the table. That was the first time, but it wasn't the last. Over the next few months, I started noticing a pattern. Every time I mentioned dating, every time I talked about a guy I was interested in, Marcus would find a reason to leave. He'd make excuses, change the subject, or suddenly remember some urgent assignment he'd forgotten about. At first, I thought maybe he was struggling with his own dating life. Maybe he was lonely or dealing with something personal. I tried to ask, tried to create space for him to open up, but he'd just smile that sad smile and say everything was fine. "You can talk to me, you know," I told him one night in late March. We were walking back from a party, the spring air cool and fresh after the stuffiness of the crowded apartment. "Whatever's going on, I'm here." Marcus stopped walking. We were under a streetlight, and I could see the conflict written across his face, the desire to speak warring with the need to stay silent. "I know," he said finally. I need time, Ethan, to figure some things out." "Okay." I squeezed his shoulder, trying to ignore the way he flinched slightly at my touch. "Take all the time you need, I'm not going anywhere." If only I'd known how prophetic those words would become. The secret came out on a Friday night in early October during the fall of our sophomore year. We'd gone to a friend's birthday party in the Arts District downtown. The loft apartment was packed with people, music poolsing through the floor and the air thick with laughter and alcohol-loosened inhibitions. I'd had a few drinks, enough to feel warm and relaxed but not drunk, and I was having a good time dancing with a group of friends. I noticed Marcus standing alone on the balcony, silhouetted against the city lights. Something about his posture, shoulders hunched, head bowed, made my chest tighten with concern. I slid the balcony door closed behind me, muting the party noise. You hiding from humanity? Just needed some air. He didn't turn around, his hands gripping the railing. It's loud in there. I moved to stand beside him, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. Below us the city glittered like scattered jewels, cars moving through the streets like blood through veins. Been quiet lately, I said carefully. More than usual. Is everything okay? Define okay. His laugh was bitter, unlike him. Is anything ever really okay, or are we all just pretending until we can't anymore? Marcus. I turned to face him fully. What's going on? And don't say nothing, because I know you better than that. He was silent for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then finally he turned to look at me. His eyes were wet with unshed tears, reflecting the neon glow from the bar sign across the street. Can I ask you something? His voice was barely above a whisper. And will you promise to be honest? Of course. Do you ever feel like you're living a lie, like there's this huge part of you that you can't show anyone and it's eating you alive from the inside out? My heart clenched. Marcus, are you not out? What this is about? He laughed again, the sound sharp and painful. It's more complicated than that. Then explain it to me, whatever it is you can tell me. He searched my face, desperate and afraid. What if telling you changes everything? What if you look at me differently or you can't be around me anymore? That's not going to happen. I reached for his hand and he let me take it, his fingers cold despite the mild evening. You're my best friend, nothing you say is going to change that. He closed his eyes and a single tear traced down his cheek. When he opened them again there was a resolution there, a decision made. I need to tell you something, he said, but I need you to promise me first. Promise me you'll never tell anyone, not your family, not your other friends, not anyone. This stays between us. The intensity in his voice scared me, but I nodded. I promise. He took a shaky breath. I'm not out to my family, they don't know I'm gay, and they can't ever know. Relief flooded through me. Was that all? Marcus, that's okay, coming out is personal. And you should do it on your own timeline. There's no rush, you don't understand. His grip on my hand tight. It's not that simple. My parents, they're traditional, very traditional. Chinese immigrant success story, worked their way from nothing, built a business, gave their only son every opportunity. And they have expectations, marriage, grandchildren, carrying on the family name and legacy. Surely they'd want you to be happy. My cousin came out 5 years ago. Marcus's voice went flat, emotionless. They disowned him completely, won't even say his name anymore. It's like he never existed. The words hung in the air between us, heavy with implication. So you see, Marcus continued, I can't ever tell them, and I can't be publicly out, not in any way that might get back to them. No pride parades, no rainbow flags, no relationship posts on social media. I have to be careful about who knows, about who sees me at queer events or bars. Because if they find out, you'd lose your family, I finished, finally understanding the weight he'd been carrying. I'd lose everything. He pulled his hand away, wrapping his arms around himself. My mom calls me every week, my dad sends care packages, they're planning my future, talking about introducing me to nice Chinese girls when I graduate, and I smile and nod and lie to them about who I am. Marcus, I didn't know what to say. How do you comfort someone who's trapped between two impossible choices? So now you know, he said. My secret, the reason I disappear sometimes, the reason I can't fully be myself, and I need you to keep it. Please, Ethan, I'm trusting you with this. Of course I'll keep it. I moved closer, pulling him into a hug. He resisted for a moment, then collapsed against me, his face buried in my shoulder. I'm so sorry you're going through this. We stood like that for a long time, the party noise muted behind the glass door, the city lights blurring in my vision. I held my best friend while he cried silently, his whole body shaking with suppressed sobs. I thought I understood then. I thought the secret was about his family, about his fear of rejection, about the impossible situation he was navigating. I had no idea that I was only seeing part of the truth. That the real secret, the one that would change everything, was still hidden, locked away in a place so deep that even Marcus himself had tried to forget it existed. Keeping Marcus's secret should have brought us closer. Instead, it created a chasm I didn't know how to cross. Winter settled over campus like a heavy blanket, the days growing shorter and colder. Marcus threw himself into his classes with an intensity that worried me. He was always studying, always working, always busy. Our spontaneous coffee dates became scheduled appointments in his meticulously organized planner. Our late-night conversations dwindled to text messages and occasional video calls when he had time. Are you avoiding me? I asked one night in January, catching him outside the library as he tried to slip away without saying hello. No, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. I just have a lot going on right now. Marcus, it's me, you don't have to pretend with me. He finally looked up, and the exhaustion in his face made my heart ache. Dark circles shadowed his eyes and he'd lost weight, his cheekbones sharper than they should be. I'm not pretending, he said softly. I'm just trying to figure things out. Me help, you can't. The words came out harsher than he intended and he winced. I'm sorry, I don't mean to push you away, I just need some space right now, space. The word felt like a rejection even though I knew it shouldn't. I nodded, forcing a smile. Okay, but I'm here when you're ready. He touched my arm briefly, his fingers lingering for just a moment. I know, thank you. Then he was gone, disappearing into the snow-dusted evening, leaving me standing alone on the library steps wondering what I'd done wrong. I met Daniel Reeves at a Queer Student Alliance meeting in February. He was a junior majoring in environmental science, with sandy blonde hair, kind green eyes, and an easy smile that made me feel seen. When he asked me out for coffee after the meeting, I said yes without hesitation. Dating Daniel was comfortable. He was smart, funny, and genuinely interested in me. He didn't play games or send mixed signals. When he said he'd call, he called. When he made plans, he kept them. After months of watching Marcus pull away, Daniel's straightforward nature felt like a relief. So tell me about your best friend, Daniel said during our third date. We were at a cozy Italian restaurant sharing a tiramisu and talking about our lives. Marcus, right? You mention him a lot. I tried to keep my voice casual. I guess we've been close for a while. Sounds important to you. I pushed a piece of dessert around the plate. We kind of clicked from the start, you know. Like we understood each other in a way that's hard to find. Daniel watched me with those perceptive green eyes. Have you told him about me? I texted Marcus about Daniel after our first date, excited to share the news. He'd responded with a simple "that's great" and nothing else. When I'd tried to tell him more, tried to share the giddy new relationship feelings, he'd changed the subject. Yeah, I said, he knows, and he's happy for me. The lie tasted bitter on my tongue. Daniel reached across the table and took my hand. For what it's worth, I'm really glad you said yes to coffee that day. I squeezed his hand back, trying to ignore the small voice in my head whispering that something felt wrong. Daniel was perfect. This relationship was good for me. I should be happy, so why did I keep thinking about Marcus? March arrived with false promises of spring, warm days followed by cold snaps that left everyone sick and irritable. I'd been dating Daniel for 6 weeks and things were going well. We'd made it official, changed our relationship statuses on social media, started talking about summer plans. I hadn't seen Marcus in person in nearly 3 weeks. Then one Thursday night my phone rang at 2 a.m. Marcus's name flashed on the screen and I answered immediately, my heart pounding. Marcus. What's wrong? Can you come get me? His voice was thick, slurred. I don't know where I am. I was out of bed before he finished speaking, pulling on jeans and a hoodie. Send me your location, I'll be right there. He was at a bar in the Warehouse District, a queer club I'd been to a few times. When I arrived, I found him sitting on the curb outside, his head in his hands. He looked up when I called his name and my stomach dropped. His eyes were red-rimmed and unfocused, his hair disheveled, his shirt buttoned wrong. He said, attempting a smile that came out more like a grimace. My hero again. Jesus, Marcus, how much did you drink? Not enough. He let me help him to his feet, leaning heavily against me. Or maybe too much, it's hard to tell. I got him into my car, buckled him in, then drove toward his apartment. He was quiet for most of the ride, staring out the window at the empty streets. Then suddenly he spoke. Do you love him? What, Daniel? He turned to look at me, his expression raw and vulnerable. Do you love him? We haven't said that yet, it's still new. You could love him, I mean, he's good for you, stable, uncomplicated. Each word sounded like it was being pulled from deep inside him. Not like me. Marcus, you're drunk, let's get you home. I'm sorry. His voice cracked. I'm so sorry, Ethan. What? For being a coward, for lying. For not being brave enough to. He stopped abruptly, pressing his hand over his mouth. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Brave enough to what? He was quiet for so long I thought he'd fallen asleep. Then, in a voice so soft I almost didn't hear it, he whispered, to tell you the truth. I got Marcus up to his apartment, made him drink 2 glasses of water and helped him to his bedroom. He collapsed onto the bed and I sat beside him, worry gnawing at my insides. What truth, Marcus? I asked gently. What haven't you told me? He stared at the ceiling, tears sliding down his temples into his hair. I can't date anyone you know, can't have a boyfriend or go to Pride with someone or introduce anyone to my parents as more than a friend. I'm stuck in this limbo where I can't be fully myself, can't have what I want, can't what? Can't have you. The words dropped into the silence like stones into still water, sending ripples through everything I thought I knew. My voice came out strangled. Marcus sat up suddenly, swaying slightly, but his eyes were clearer now, focused on my face with an intensity that made my breath catch. That's the real secret, Ethan. The one I've been hiding since the day we met. I'm in love with you. I've been in love with you for 2 years and it's killing me. Time seemed to slow down. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, feel the blood rushing through my veins, see every detail of Marcus's face, the hope and fear warring in his expression, the trembling of his lips, the way his hands were fisted in the blanket like he was holding on for dear life. Drunk, I managed to say. You don't mean? I'm drunk enough to finally say it, but not drunk enough to lie. He laughed bitterly. I'm in love with you. I have been since you saved my chips from that vending machine, since you laughed at my terrible poetry, since every late-night conversation where you made me feel like I mattered. Marcus, I know you don't feel the same way. His voice was breaking, each word a struggle. I know you see me as a friend and that's okay, that's why I never said anything. I didn't want to lose you completely. But then you started dating Ryan and then Daniel and I had to watch you fall for other people while I pretended to be happy for you. And I tried, Ethan, I tried so hard to just be your friend, to be satisfied with that, but I can't anymore, I can't keep doing this. Didn't you tell me? The question came out as barely more than a whisper. Because you deserve better than someone who can't even be honest with his own family. Because I knew it would complicate everything. Because I was terrified you'd disappear if you knew. He wiped at his eyes roughly. I begged you to keep my secret because I thought if I could just keep this locked away, if I could just keep pretending, maybe it would stop hurting eventually. But it never does, it just gets worse. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. 2 years of memories were reframing themselves in my mind. Every lingering glance, every careful distance, every time Marcus pulled away just when I wanted him closer. It had all meant something different than I thought. Something, Marcus pleaded. Please, even if it's just to tell me to leave you alone, I need to know. But I couldn't speak. Because as he sat there, vulnerable and broken and beautiful in the dim lamplight, something was shifting inside me. A realization rising up from a place I'd kept locked away, afraid to examine too closely. All those times I'd felt hurt when Marcus pulled away, was that just friendship? All those moments I'd found myself thinking about him when I should have been focusing on my dates with Daniel, was that normal? The way my heart raced when Marcus smiled at me, the way I felt more alive in his presence than anywhere else, what did that mean? I need time, I finally said, standing up on shaky legs. I need to think. Hope in Marcus's eyes dimmed. Okay, I stopped, trying to find the right words. I'm not saying no, I'm just saying I need time to process this. He nodded, looking smaller somehow, curled up on his bed. Take all the time you need, I'm sorry for dumping this on you. Apologize. I moved toward the door, then stopped. Marcus, get some sleep, we'll talk when you're sober. I left his apartment and sat in my car for 20 minutes, my hands gripping the steering wheel, my mind racing. The city was quiet around me, the streetlights casting orange pools on empty sidewalks. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. Marcus loved me. Had loved me for 2 years, and somewhere deep inside, in a place I'd been afraid to look, I knew I loved him too. I didn't go back to my apartment. Instead, I drove to the park by the river, the one where Marcus and I used to go when we needed to think. I sat on our favorite bench as the sun rose, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, and finally let myself face the truth. I'd been in love with Marcus Chen for longer than I wanted to admit. Maybe not from the first moment, but somewhere along the way, between the late-night talks and the comfortable silences, between the laughter and the tears, I'd fallen for my best friend and been too scared to acknowledge it. Every relationship I'd had, every guy I'd dated had been compared to Marcus without me even realizing it. Ryan was nice, but he didn't make me laugh like Marcus did. Daniel was kind, but conversations with him didn't feel as deep, as essential. I'd been looking for Marcus in other people while convincing myself that what I felt for him was just friendship. But friends don't feel like their world tilts when the other person walks into a room. Friends don't memorize the sound of each other's laughter. Friends don't feel like a piece of themselves is missing when they're apart. My phone buzzed, a text from Daniel. Good morning, want to grab breakfast before class. Guilt twisted in my stomach. Daniel was a good person. He deserved someone who wasn't in love with someone else. I called him instead of texting back. He answered on the second ring, his voice warm and sleep-rough. Hey, you're up early. Daniel, we need to talk. The warmth faded. Oh. I'm so sorry, you've been nothing but wonderful, and this has nothing to do with you. It's Marcus, isn't it? The question caught me off guard. How did you know? Ethan, I'm not blind. The way you talk about him, the way your face changes when you mention his name. I knew pretty early on that I was competing with someone else. I just hoped maybe I'd have a chance anyway. I'm sorry, I said again, meaning it. You deserve someone who can give you their whole heart. Yeah, he sighed, I do, but hey, for what it's worth, I hope it works out with him. You light up when you talk about Marcus. I'd never seen you light up like that when you talked about me. After we hung up, I sat on that bench until the park filled with morning joggers and dog walkers. Then I drove back to Marcus's apartment and knocked on his door. He answered, looking terrible, pale, exhausted, his hair sticking up in every direction. When he saw me, something like panic flashed across his face. Ethan, about last night. Can I come in? He stepped aside wordlessly and I walked into his apartment. It was a mess, papers scattered across every surface, empty coffee cups on the table, clothes draped over furniture. Marcus had always been neat before. This chaos spoke volumes about his state of mind. I broke up with Daniel, I said, turning to face him. Marcus's eyes widened. What? No, you didn't have to. Yes, I did, because it wasn't fair to him. I took a breath, steadying myself, because I was in love with someone else and trying to pretend I wasn't. I watched the words register, watched hope bloom in Marcus's expression before fear tamped it down. Ethan. Let me finish. I moved closer. For 2 years you've been hiding how you feel, but I've been hiding too, from myself more than anyone. I kept telling myself we were just friends, that what I felt was normal, that the way my heart raced around you was just, I don't know, anxiety or something. What are you saying? I'm saying that when you pulled away, it hurt more than when any boyfriend broke up with me. I'm saying that no one I've ever dated has made me feel the way you do. I'm saying that somewhere along the way, I fell in love with my best friend and was too scared to admit it. Marcus stood frozen, tears streaming down his face. You love me. Yes, the word came out curt and clear. I love you, Marcus Chen. I love your terrible poetry and the way you argue with vending machines. I love how you listen to people like they're the most important thing in the world. I love your crooked smile and your beautiful heart and even the way you push people away when you're scared. But I can't give you what you deserve, he said desperately. I can't be public about us, I can't introduce you to my family as my boyfriend, I can't give you the relationship you should have. I closed the distance between us, taking his hands in mine. Then we'll figure it out together, because I'd rather have you in secret than anyone else out in the open. Are you sure? Because once we cross this line. I kissed him, softly at first, tentative, giving him room to pull away. But he didn't. He made a small sound in the back of his throat and kissed me back, his hands coming up to cup my face, his lips warm and urgent against mine. When we finally broke apart, both of us breathless, he was smiling through his tears. I've dreamed about doing that for so long, he whispered. So have I. I pulled him close and he collapsed against me, his arms tight around my waist. I just didn't let myself know it. We stood like that for a long time, holding each other in the morning light streaming through his windows. Outside, the city moved on, oblivious. But in that moment, in that embrace, everything had changed. We had so much to figure out, so many complications to navigate, but for now this was enough. Marcus in my arms, both of us finally honest about what we felt. The next few months existed in a strange, beautiful limbo. Marcus and I were together, really together, but only behind closed doors. In public, we remained best friends, careful about how we touched, how we looked at each other, how long our hugs lasted. It was harder than I expected. Not the secrecy itself exactly, but the constant vigilance. The way Marcus would tense up if I reached for his hand without thinking. The way we had to check over our shoulders before kissing goodbye. The way I had to bite my tongue when people asked if I was dating anyone, unable to claim the person I loved most in the world. But God, the private moments made it worth it. Marcus was an incredible boyfriend, attentive, affectionate, thoughtful in ways that made my heart ache. He left little notes in my textbooks for me to find. He memorized my schedule so he could bring me coffee between classes. He'd show up at my apartment at midnight with takeout when he knew I was stressed about exams. And the way he kissed me, like I was precious, like I was everything, like he'd been starving for this his entire life. Sometimes we'd lie tangled together on his couch, talking for hours about everything and nothing. Other times we'd sit in comfortable silence, just existing together, the weight of secrecy momentarily forgotten. I wish I could take you home for summer break, I said one night in late April. We were in my bed, Marcus's head on my chest, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on my skin. Introduce you to my parents properly, not as my friend but as my boyfriend. I felt him go rigid against me. Ethan. I know, I ran my fingers through his hair soothingly. I'm not asking you to come out to your family, I wish things were different. Me too, his voice was small, almost childlike, every single day. Hey, I tilted his chin up so I could see his face. I don't regret this, any of it. I chose you, Marcus, I choose you every day. His eyes shimmered with tears, even though we have to hide. Even though we have to hide, I kissed him softly. We'll figure out a way forward eventually, but for now this is enough, you are enough. He kissed me back deeper this time, trying to communicate without words what he couldn't quite say, and I understood, I always understood him. The cracks started showing in May. Marcus's mother called one evening while we were out at a movie, one of the few public places we could go where sitting close in a dark theater didn't seem suspicious. His phone buzzed during a quiet scene and I felt him tense beside me. I should take this, he whispered, already standing. I watched him leave the theater, his shoulders hunched, his posture defensive. He didn't come back for 20 minutes and when he did, his eyes were red. Everything okay? I murmured. Fine, but his jaw was clenched and he didn't relax for the rest of the movie. Later, at his apartment, the story came out. His mother wanted to introduce him to someone, a colleague's daughter who was accomplished, beautiful, and from a good family. She'd already made plans for Marcus to meet her when he came home for summer break. I told her I wasn't interested, Marcus said, packing his small living room. But she wouldn't listen. She just kept talking about how I needed to start thinking about my future, about giving them grandchildren, about. He broke off, running his hands through his hair in frustration. What did you say? What could I say? I said I was too focused on school right now that I'd think about it. He laughed bitterly. I lied just like always, smiled and agreed and promised to keep an open mind. I pulled him down onto the couch beside me. You don't have to meet her. Yes, I do. If I refuse, they'll want to know why. They'll start asking questions I can't answer. He leaned into me, exhausted. Sometimes I fantasize about just telling them, getting it over with, but then I remember my cousin and I remember what I'd be giving up and I. You don't have to decide tonight. Don't I? He pulled away to look at me. Ethan, this isn't going to get easier. At some point they're going to expect me to marry someone, have kids, live the life they've planned for me, and I keep thinking, how long can we do this? How long before the hiding becomes too much? The question hung between us, heavy and unanswerable. In early June, Marcus's parents announced they were coming to visit. They'd be in town for a week, staying at a hotel downtown, and they wanted to spend time with their son. They wanted to meet his friends. They wanted to see his life. Marcus had a panic attack when he got the news. I found him in his bathroom, sitting on the floor with his knees drawn up to his chest, breathing fast and shallow. I knelt beside him, taking his hands in mine. Breathe with me, I said calmly, even though my own heart was racing. In for 4 counts, hold for 4, out for 4, that's it. Slowly his breathing normalized, but the fear remained in his eyes. They can't find out, he whispered. Ethan's, they can't. I'm not ready. I don't know if I'll ever be ready. Then we'll be careful, we'll be just friends when they're around like we always are in public. What if they can tell? What if the way I look at you gives it away? Then we'll deal with it. I cupped his face in my hands. Together, I'm not going anywhere, Marcus. But I could see the doubt in his eyes, the certainty that this was the beginning of the end. Marcus's parents invited me to dinner on their 3rd night in town. Marcus had mentioned me enough over the past 2 years that they wanted to meet his closest friend from college. I agreed, even though the idea made my stomach churn with anxiety. Mrs. Chen was elegant and poised, her hair perfectly styled, her smile polished. Mr. Chen was quieter, more observant, with Marcus's same dark eyes and thoughtful expression. They were exactly as Marcus had described, loving, proud, and carrying expectations as heavy as mountains. Ethan, Mrs. Chen said warmly, shaking my hand. It's wonderful to finally meet you. Marcus talks about you so often. He's been a great friend, I said carefully, acutely aware of Marcus standing rigid beside me. The dinner was torture. Every word felt like a landmine. Every casual touch or shared glance with Marcus had to be measured, calculated. When Mrs. Chen asked if I had a girlfriend, I said I was focused on school. When Mr. Chen mentioned Marcus meeting that nice young woman over the summer, I had to smile and nod while watching the life drain from Marcus's face. But the worst moment came near the end of the meal. You know, Mrs. Chen said, looking between Marcus and me with a knowing smile, I'm glad Marcus has such a good friend. Sometimes I worry about him being so far from home, but knowing he has you, it makes me feel better. Mom, Marcus said quietly, a warning in his voice. I'm just saying, friendship is important, but Marcus needs to think about his future too, about building a family, about. Can we not do this now? Marcus's voice was strained. An awkward silence fell over the table. Mrs. Chen looked surprised, then hurt. Mr. Chen frowned. Your mother is just concerned, Mr. Chen said. We both are. You're 20 years old, Marcus. It's time to start thinking seriously about these things. I watched Marcus's hands clench into fists under the table, watched the muscle in his jaw jump, watched him struggle between honesty and self-preservation. I am thinking about my future, he said finally, just maybe not the one you're imagining. Mrs. Chen's expression sharpened. What does that mean? Nothing, Marcus stood abruptly. I need some air, excuse me. He walked out of the restaurant, leaving me sitting with his parents. Mrs. Chen looked at me with worry and confusion. Did we say something wrong? I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell them that yes, they'd said everything wrong, that they were crushing their son under the weight of their expectations, that the person they were trying to change him into didn't exist. But it wasn't my secret to tell. He's just stressed about school, I said instead. Finals were rough this semester. I excused myself a few minutes later and found Marcus sitting on a bench outside, his head in his hands. I can't do this anymore, he said when I sat beside him. I can't keep pretending, it's killing me, Ethan. I know. But I can't lose them either, I can't, you don't understand what that would mean. Then what do you want to do? He looked at me, tears streaming down his face. I don't know. The next few days were tense. Marcus pulled away again, caught between his family's expectations and his own truth. I tried to give him space while also being there for him, but it felt like standing on shifting sand. Every time I thought I'd found solid ground, it crumbled beneath me. On their last night in town, Marcus's parents invited him to dinner alone. He came to my apartment afterward at nearly midnight, looking like he'd been through a war. They want me to take a break from school, he said without preamble, standing in my doorway. Transfer to a university closer to home, move back in with them. They're worried about me, about my isolation, about me not having the right social connections. What did you say? I said no, I said I'm happy here, that I'm doing well, that I don't want to leave. He laughed bitterly. My mom cried, said she just wants me to be happy, but she doesn't understand why I'm fighting them so hard. I pulled him inside, closing the door. Marcus. I told them. The word stopped me cold. What? Not everything, not about us, but I told them I'm gay. He was shaking, his whole body trembling like a leaf in a storm. I couldn't take it anymore, the lying, the pretending, the constant pressure to be someone I'm not, so I told them. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. And my dad didn't say anything, just stood up and left the restaurant. My mom, his voice broke. She asked me if I was sure, if maybe I was just confused, if maybe I hadn't met the right woman yet, and when I said no, that I'd known for years, she looked at me like I was a stranger. I wrapped my arms around him and he collapsed against me, sobbing so hard his entire body shook. They left, he choked out between sobs. They checked out of their hotel early and flew home tonight. My mom said they needed time to process and that we'd talk when I came home for the summer. I'm so sorry, I held him tighter, my own tears falling into his hair. I'm so sorry. I might have just lost my family. The anguish in his voice was devastating. For what? For being honest, for finally telling the truth? For being yourself, I said firmly, for being brave enough to stop living a lie. We stayed like that for hours, Marcus crying himself into exhaustion while I held him and whispered reassurances I wasn't sure I believed. Eventually, we moved to my bed and he fell asleep in my arms, his face pressed against my chest, his fingers clutching my shirt like I might disappear. I lay awake, watching the shadows move across the ceiling, feeling the weight of what had happened settle over us. Marcus had done the impossible, he'd told his truth, consequences be damned, and now we had to wait and see if it had cost him everything. The next week was the hardest of my life and I wasn't even the one who'd come out. Marcus was a shell of himself, going through the motions of daily life but not really present. He'd check his phone constantly, hoping for a message from his parents that never came. He'd call them and they wouldn't answer. He'd email and get automated responses. They'd cut him off completely, just like they had his cousin. I knew this would happen, Marcus said one night, his voice hollow. I knew and I still said it. Why did I say it? Because you deserve to live honestly, I told him, because hiding was destroying you. But now I have nothing, no family, no support system, no. You have me? I grabbed his shoulders, forcing him to look at me. You have me, Marcus, and I know that doesn't replace your family, but you're not alone, you're never alone. Something shifted in his expression, grief giving way to realization. You stayed. Of course I stayed. Even though this is a mess, even though dating me now means dealing with all of this, you stayed. I pulled him close. I will always stay, that's what love means. 2 weeks after Marcus's parents left, something unexpected happened. His phone rang and his mother's name flashed on the screen. I watched the color drain from his face. I can't answer it. Do you want to? He stared at the phone, paralyzed. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. A minute later, a notification appeared, a voicemail message. Marcus's hands were shaking so badly he could barely press play. He put it on speaker and his mother's voice filled the small room. "Marcus, it's Mom." A long pause, heavy breathing. "I've been thinking a lot these past 2 weeks. Your father and we've been talking, arguing really, about you, about our expectations, about—" Another pause. "Your father still needs time, but I wanted to call because I can't stand this silence anymore." Marcus's breath hitched. "You're my son," Mrs. Chen continued, her voice thick with emotion. "You'll always be my son, and I'm sorry for how I reacted when you told us. I was shocked, confused, hurt by the years of secrets. But mostly I was scared of what this means for your life, for your happiness, for your safety. I'm your mother. I want to protect you from pain." Tears were streaming down Marcus's face. "I don't understand this," she said honestly. "I don't know if I ever will, but I'm trying to. I've been reading, researching, trying to educate myself, and I realize that I'd rather have my son in my life exactly as he is than lose him over this." Marcus made a small sound, somewhere between a sob and a laugh. "Your father will come around. He's stubborn, but he loves you. We both do. So when you're ready, when you want to talk, please call me back. I miss you. I miss my son." The message ended. Marcus stared at his phone, then at me, disbelief and hope warring on his face. "She called," he whispered. "She actually called. Call her back. Now. Right now, don't let fear make you wait another second." With trembling fingers, Marcus called his mother back. She answered immediately. "Marcus." "Hi, Mom," his voice cracked. "I got your message." I couldn't hear her response, but I watched Marcus's face transform, watched the tension drain away, watched hope bloom where despair had been. He talked to his mother for over an hour, crying, laughing, explaining. At one point he looked at me and said, "Mom, there's something else I need to tell you. I have a boyfriend." My heart stopped. "His name is Ethan," Marcus continued, his eyes locked on mine. "He's the friend I told you about. We've been together for a few months now. He's been my best friend for 2 years and his voice broke. "He's everything to me." I couldn't hear what his mother said, but Marcus was smiling through his tears. "Yes," he said, "yes, I'd like you to meet him, properly this time, as my boyfriend." The coffee shop was warm and cozy, decorated for the holidays with twinkling lights and evergreen garlands. Through the window, snow fell gently on the Seattle streets outside. Marcus sat beside me, his hand in mine, no longer hiding, no longer afraid. Across from us, Mrs. Chen watched our joined hands with a complicated expression, not quite comfortable but no longer hostile. Mr. Chen was still distant, still struggling, but he'd shown up today. That was something. "So," Mrs. Chen said, turning her attention to me, "Marcus tells me you're graduating this spring. What are your plans?" "I've been accepted to a graduate program here in Seattle," I said. "Marcus and I are planning to get an apartment together." I watched her process this, watched her push past her discomfort to something closer to acceptance. That's good, you'll be close to us." Marcus squeezed my hand and I squeezed back. It wasn't perfect. Mr. Chen barely spoke during the lunch and there were awkward silences that stretched too long, but they were here, they were trying. As we said goodbye on the sidewalk, Mrs. Chen surprised me by pulling me into a hug. "Thank you," she whispered in my ear, "for making my son happy, for being there when we weren't." "I love him," I said simply. "I know," she pulled back, touching my cheek briefly. "I can see that." After they left, Marcus and I walked through the snowy city, hand in hand, free to be ourselves. We passed couples kissing under streetlights, families carrying shopping bags, holiday music drifting from open doorways. "Thank you," Marcus said quietly. "For what?" "For keeping my secret when I asked you to, for waiting while I figured things out, for staying even when it got hard." He stopped walking, turning to face me, snow caught in his dark hair on his eyelashes, "for loving me enough to let me find my courage." I cupped his face in my hands, no longer caring who saw. I'd do it all again, every moment, every challenge, all of it just to get here. To a snowy sidewalk in Seattle, he was smiling, that beautiful smile I'd fallen in love with 2 years ago. "To right here with you, free to love you out loud." I kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise. Around us, the city moved on, indifferent to our small miracle. But that didn't matter. Because we'd fought for this, fought through secrecy and fear, through coming out and family rejection, through all the obstacles that tried to keep us apart. And we'd won. Not because it was easy, not because everyone accepted us right away, but because we chose each other again and again until choosing became as natural as breathing. That night in the apartment we now shared, Marcus showed me something he'd been working on, a poem like he used to write in college, but this one was different. This one was about us. We loved in whispers for so long that when we finally spoke out loud, the world seemed too bright, too real. But your hand in mine made courage feel less like bravery, more like coming home. You kept my secrets sacred until I was ready to tell them myself. You loved me in the shadows until I could stand in the light. And when I finally opened the door, you were there. You'd always been there, waiting for me to be ready to love you the way you deserved, completely, honestly, without fear. I read it 3 times, tears blurring the words by the end. It's beautiful, I whispered. It's true, he corrected, every word. He kissed me then, and we fell into bed together, no longer carrying the weight of secrets. Outside, snow continued to fall on Seattle, blanketing the city in white. Inside, we built a new beginning, one where we could be fully ourselves, fully in love, fully free. The community center was packed with people, rainbow flags draped across every surface, music thumping through speakers. Marcus and I stood near the beverage table, watching the Pride celebration unfold around us. Can you believe we're here? Marcus murmured, his arm around my waist. At Pride together publicly. I can believe it. I turned to kiss him, not caring about the crowd around us. You fought so hard to get here. We both did. Mrs. Chen approached us, carrying a plate of spring rolls she'd made. She came to Pride now, still uncomfortable with the crowds and the explicit displays, but showing up nonetheless. Mr. Chen had stayed home, but he'd wished us well before we left. Small steps. Here, she said, handing us the plate. You boys need to eat. Thanks, Mom, Marcus said, and the word still made her eyes shine with tears every time. She'd asked him to keep calling her that a year ago when she'd finally told him she was proud of him. That she'd been doing research, going to PFLAG meetings, learning how to be a better parent to her queer son. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. As the sun set and the party continued, Marcus pulled me onto the makeshift dance floor. We swayed together, surrounded by our community, by people who understood what it meant to fight for the right to love openly. I love you, Ethan Morrison, Marcus said, loud enough that several people nearby smiled. I love you, Marcus Chen, I replied just as loud. Thank you for begging me to keep your secret, and thank you for trusting me with the truth. It was always about us, he said, echoing the title of this story we'd lived. I just didn't know how to say it yet. You know how to say it now. I do. He kissed me, deep and loving and unafraid. I love you, today, tomorrow, and every day after. No more secrets, no more hiding, just us living our truth. And surrounded by music and laughter, by our chosen family and our hard-won community, we danced into the night, 2 men who'd fought for their love and one who'd turned secrets into truth and silence into celebration. The secret that almost destroyed us had become the foundation of something beautiful, and that, in the end, was the greatest triumph of all.